We'll go to the Boardwalk on the Hotline. Week 2's in the books. We'll take a deeper look at all of the matchups. The Eagles lose to the Buccaneers, but Carson Wentz is back. What does that mean for this offense? Will it even matter with this core of wide receivers? ESPN senior NFL insider KC Joyner is in the house as we look at Week 2 in the NFL. We'll go around the league as well. Right now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, and we bring in KC Joyner on 97.3 ESPN. How are you, sir?
Doing better than the Eagles, I think, today. That was bad.
Yes, it was bad. It was an ugly performance yesterday. Where was it the most surprising of how they played in that game?
It would have to be pass coverage to start off the game, and I don't understand what Mills and Jenkins were doing on that first play. Mills looked like they were bracketing Jackson inside and out, and that Jenkins was supposed to go over the top and take away the post, but he thought he saw like an out-cutting route and jumped on it and left him wide open. That you can start the game off like that, knowing that Tampa knows we probably have to get this game into a high-scoring game to keep up because of our rookie cornerback situation. I can't understand how the Eagles didn't come out of the gates a little better than that.
Yeah, and you look at the Eagles' pass rush. I mean, what was going on? Why were they unable to get to Ryan Fitzpatrick yesterday?
I think it has to do actually with the Buccaneers and their pass blocking. If you look at the pass pressure rates for this season, right now the Bucs rank second in the league, second only to Denver in pass pressure rate allowed. Only 17.4% of plays are ending up with pass rush pressure, and they have one of the highest air yards per attempts in the league. How often they're throwing, or how deep they're throwing it downfield, they're ranked third in that category behind Kansas City and Houston. So Tampa is blocking very, very well, and the Eagles didn't figure out how to stop that. At least their front seven didn't figure it out from a pass rushing perspective, but a lot of credit needs to go to Tampa. They're a very good pass block in front.
Yeah, I know the Eagles have the depth, and they throw a lot of different guys at you, but it just seemed they could never really get going in the game. They did do a good job against the run, but it seemed that we've been talking a lot about whether or not the blueprint has kind of been to take shots down the field against this team and, see what happens. They did that from the start of the game yesterday. They kept taking their shot. I thought Tampa Bay was really aggressive.
Tampa Bay only had good run blocking in 6 out of 22 rush attempts yesterday. They really didn't do very well. And remember, in past years, we've said the Eagles have done a very good job of not allowing teams to get good blocking, but they allow big yardage when they get good blocking. Yesterday, Tampa Bay only gained 7 yards per attempt on plays when they got good run blocking. That's a below-average number. So the front seven looked really good for most of the game. And mind you, that's an offensive line that has a reputation of being solid run blockers, and their running backs do have some potential breakaway ability. So it was a good performance there, something to hang their hat on.
Overall, on the Eagles' defense, I thought poor tackling, too, played a role. That O.J. Howard touchdown, Darby has a guy. If he just makes a stop there, who knows how that game ends up turning out.
There are 100 high school players in Philadelphia, Atlantic City who could go make that play. Make that tackle. What was he doing? Well, you can't. He's reaching his arms out, doesn't put his shoulder in. What is he doing? Is he avoiding contact? I'm looking. I really watched that play like 4 or 5 times, thinking, okay, what is he trying to do here? He was trying to avoid contact. Look, he didn't want anything to do with the big tight end. It's like, if you don't want to get out there and hit that tight end, Darby, then maybe the Eagles need to look somewhere else, because that was atrocious. That should have been, even if he just slows him down, there's 3 other guys around who could have made the tackle. But when he lets him go almost full speed past him, that's it. It was a horrible play, and it makes you wonder about his motivations.
And Darby, is a guy that's a pretty good cover guy. Although yesterday, Mike Evans, 8 catches, big day for him. He had a touchdown. We know Jackson had a very typical Jackson day, 4 big catches for over 120 yards. He had the big touchdown to start that game off. But let's look at the Eagles on the offensive side of the ball. The news today, they're going to get Carson Wentz back. But is he going to have the necessary amount of weapons to be able to work with when he gets back?
That's a big question, because Jeffrey's still battling the shoulder. Wallace got hurt yesterday. Sproles was out coming into the game. And yesterday's in vertical passes thrown 11 or more yards downfield, the Eagles targeted Nelson Agholor 5 times. And Nelson's doing a much better job the last couple seasons. He's a much improved receiver. I don't want him being my top vertical target, because he caught 2 of those for 30 yards. They threw 2 vertical passes to Josh Perkins, 1 to Kamar Aiken, only 1 vertical pass to Zach Ertz. They threw a lot of passes his way, but a lot of dink and dunks, and that's a defense that had 2 rookie cornerbacks and a safety core that isn't great. So this is a team you should have been able to pass on, but they only let Foles throw 12 vertical attempts, again, despite the fact that they were behind most of the game. So game flow and personnel should have made them throw a whole lot more.
Overall, you look at Nelson Agholor, he had 8 for 88 in the touchdown, but he really excelled in the slot last year. When he moves to the outside, is that, I mean, I know he had 8 for 88. Last week he had 8 for 33, though. So obviously it doesn't seem that he has the same effect when he's on the outside as he does on the inside.
No, I sure would have liked to have seen him play on the inside a whole lot more. And going up against, I mean, it wouldn't have been the best matchup for him for Smith. You think about the Eagles and you go, okay, let's go. If they faced this matchup with the 2 rookie cornerbacks, if they face that matchup and they've got Agholor and they've got Jeffrey at full strength and Wallace doesn't get lost in the first quarter and you get Sproles, if they had all of those people and you put Carson Wentz behind center, they put up 50 yesterday. I think they would have crushed this thing. But you having to move Agholor to a situation where he's not as good. That's what he is. He's a slot receiver. It's like putting Amendola or Edelman or out to the outside and one of those slot possession guys. That's not what you want to do. You can get away with it to an extent, but if you can only put up 2 receptions for 30 yards on vertical passes against rookie cornerbacks, it just says you belong in the slot.
How much of an effect did, I know Wallace hasn't done much, but last year Torrey Smith didn't have big numbers, but what kind of effect do these guys have when they're just on the field, even if they don't catch a ball?
Wallace, in week 1, there's a measurement I saw for how fast players, what the top speed of players was in week 1 on some of their routes, and Wallace was in the top 5 wide receivers. So he still has the speed to tear the top off of a defense, and you can scare defenses that way and say, okay, well, can you imagine you've got him, if he doesn't get hurt, he goes up against a rookie cornerback, he's got Josh Evans, the safety, going over to cover off the deep passes. You can throw all kinds of stuff underneath, but again, with him not there, there's nobody on the defense to tear the top off the defense. You can do it so much with tight ends. You can threaten in the middle of the defense so much with them, but they're limited. So you don't have the receiving core that can do it, and you don't have the talent that can do it. So Tampa Bay didn't have to really respect the scheme, the vertical passing scheme. And again, the Eagles didn't throw that often downfield. But I can't blame Foles. I mean, he was 6 of 12 for 123 yards on those vertical passes. Those aren't terrible numbers. Any 10.3 yards per attempt is okay given the situation, but they've got to get healthy if they're going to get their vertical game back.
What does getting Carson Wentz bring back? I mean, was yesterday a reminder of why he is so important? Because it seems that even though Foles had good numbers, and I'm not saying he played poorly, it's just that he doesn't make that special play on a day when maybe Wentz can elevate the other guys around him who maybe aren't special and allow them to make a special play. Where Foles, he relies on the.
I think that doesn't Foles. I know what he did in the postseason, but I think they still don't fully trust him to say, we're just going to cut it loose with you. If Wentz is out there, you let him cut it loose. I think they would allow him to use his mobility more, although, again, given he's coming back from injury, are they going to do that immediately or are they going to scale that back? But I would think they would allow him to do those sorts of things. And Wentz has the ability, sort of like Phillip Rivers has. Phillip Rivers, when you look at his career, he's always had some good receivers, but you see all these second-tier receivers who go and play for the Chargers, and they put up these huge numbers. And it's because Rivers knows what to do to get them open, and he can get the ball to them. He's aggressive enough to do so. So I think Wentz will have a similar role, but I still love to see some of those talented receivers come back because you really can't count the quarterback to do it all by himself.
Running game for Philadelphia. I mean, the offensive line, it doesn't seem that they're really running. You know, they're not committed to the run. They're not. I mean, it's not like you're looking at them and say, what are they doing? But Ajayi went out. Then Clement looked like he got going a little bit, but they just don't seem like that's a I mean, they were down in the game. I bet 48 passes for Foles. They never really got the running game going. Was that more the game, or did they just feel like that's not something they could do right now?
They had 54.6% good blocking rate yesterday. If you get over 50 in a single game, you're doing really good. So they did a fine job of run blocking, even though I think Peters hasn't been as dominant a run blocker as he has been in the past. Problem is, in week 1, they only averaged 7.3 yards per attempt when they got good blocking. That's not a good number. Usually 8.2, 8.3 is league average, so that's below league average. And yesterday, only gained 6.5 yards per attempt when they got good blocking. So you're a couple yards below league average. You want to be in the 8s and 9s and 10s. And again, that's a defense that should have had to sit back and say, we're going to protect these corners, and you should have had some defensive fronts to go up well against. So I think some of it has to do with you've got to get more home run hitting from your running backs. I mean, Ajayi was banged up, then he came back in, and he got, I think, a 120-yard gain, so he did okay within reason, but Clement just doesn't seem to have that same breakaway ability despite the fact he had that touchdown run.
KC Joyner's with us here. Watching that game, any red flags, cause for concerns?
Effort level on defense outside of the front seven, I really didn't like the effort level on defense, and especially in the first quarter. I think that Philadelphia, I won't say they didn't take the game seriously, but again, the first play of the game to give up that play and the way their run blocking looked and run defense looked in the first quarter, it got better as the game progressed, but it took them a quarter to wake up. And these are Super Bowl champions. You don't expect them to have that kind of motivation. So I think they kind of sleepwalked through the game, and it cost them.
Moving forward for the Eagles, wide receiver, Alshon, you mentioned, looks like we know Matt Collins is going to miss at least up to week number 8 here. Josh Gordon is now in New England, so that ship has sailed. Do they go outside the organization, or do you stick with what you got?
Gibson's hurt too. Another back over theirs has been hurt. DeAndre Carter, Akins is what he is. I just think you've got to hope the guys get healthy and things. And if you get Sproles back, it allows you to do certain things. But they've got to get some of their top guys back, because they don't. As what did Parcells say back in the day when they talked about getting a backup quarterback? He said you can't just call 1-800 quarterback. You can't call 1-800 wide receiver either. It's not there. So I think that they need to hope that they can get the players healthy and back. And if they can't, then you're going to do even more creative play calling. But you got to get some people in, because as many people as the Eagles have been losing the past couple weeks, that trend keeps up. It's going to be a long season.
All right. Hopefully that's not the case. Carson Wentz back. We'll see how that goes. They'll take on this Colts team that did get a victory. We'll go through the schedule and get a couple of quick thoughts on each game with KC Joyner here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. We'll also get his thoughts on tonight's Monday Night Football game. But let's look at the games from yesterday. Falcons beat the Panthers 31-24. I was a little surprised with the Falcons all banged up, but they answered the bell. 4 touchdowns for Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt Ryan throwing getting 4 touchdowns, and the Carolina defense, Atlanta handled their pass rush. Atlanta led the league in pass pressure rate allowed yesterday, and it's something, if you can handle the Carolina pass rush, you can do a lot of things, and that's why I think Ryan was 23 for 28. If they can keep that kind of pass blocking going, the pass blocking they didn't have against Philadelphia, if they can keep that going, Atlanta's a dangerous team.
Chargers on the road beat the Bills 31-20. All sorts of problems in Buffalo. A guy retired at halftime in the middle of the game, but more than that, the Chargers traveled across the country, and they had a huge first half.
They did, and Buffalo they're atrocious in every way. I did an analysis for ESPN Plus's section regarding blocking yesterday and how it impacted fantasy players. With Sean McCoy, fantasy managers, they're wondering what's happening to him. He's getting good blocking on 15.6% of his rush attempts. That's atrocious. And the other Buffalo ball carriers are getting 50% good blocking rate. So basically, defense is saying, we stopped McCoy, we win, and now McCoy's banged up. Buffalo's easily the worst team in the league.
Let's go around the league. Vikings and Packers, Rodgers and Cousins went back-to-back, or mano in this one, but we couldn't get a winner.
Couldn't get a winner. It says so much for Rodgers that he can do that against that defense. Again, I still think that as good as the Vikings are, I don't think they're quite the dominant team on defense that people think they are. And I give a lot of credit to Rodgers, but I think Minnesota is a top 10 defense. I don't know that they're a top 5 defense.
Houston goes to Tennessee. They're now 0-2. The Titans get a nice win there. Deshaun Watson with a big day, so people calming down about him. But the Titans with a nice win to get them to 2-0.
Yeah, Titans with a nice win. I will say something about Watson. That ESPN Plus article mentioned. People can read about that Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. They found a way to connect on scramble plays in ways that they haven't done before. It really bodes well for their future. But yeah, for the Titans to do it, missing both your tackles, and you're playing a backup quarterback, and it was all that they had on that team, and Houston's quality ball club. So for Tennessee to do it, that speaks well of Vrabel's coaching.
Cleveland almost had the win, but the kicker couldn't get it done. He gets cut today, and the Saints hold on. They go to 1-1, but something's going on with the Saints there.
Something's going on with the Saints. The Saints defense, though, showed up better yesterday, and I don't want to check off on them that they're doing great because they held the Browns in check, but their offense is not quite as good. The run blocking is still solid, but their passing game, it's like they can't lean on their passing game like they used to. Their pass blocking has been a tad bit shaky this year, not as good as you'd like it to be. So I think their offense has got to. I think they need Ingram to come back to give them that 1-2 punch to be what they were last year, because having him out, they haven't found a replacement for him.
Miami wins. They're now 2-0. The Jets, there's a lot of hype around them. Darnold had 334, but they couldn't get the win at home. Got to look at Miami now, 2-0 inside the AFC East. The Jets fall to 1-1.
Darnold is going to be, he's not going to be a top 10 quarterback this year. It'll take a year or so, a year or two. The guy gets the talent around him, but he's almost to the point where he's in the upper half of the league at this point. He's threatening to that point. The Dolphins, the run blocking was better than you think. They lost one of their starting guards, Josh Sitton. They lost him to a season-ending injury last week, and you'd think that the run blocking would have dropped off. It didn't, and they're still moving the ball on the ground better than you think. I still put them, I think it was 15th in today's power rankings when I submitted my picks to ESPN, because I just can't go any higher than that, but they look really good in one game, so I got to, they could be trending upward.
Big game for Patrick Mahomes as he outshoots Ben Roethlisberger, who had 452 yards. They win 42-37. Both games for Kansas City on the road. They look like a legit threat in the AFC. Pittsburgh, many people thought they were a threat. They're now 0-1-1.
That's terrible that one secondary issue that they have Joe Hayden, they lose him to an injury, and Artie Burns, one of their other starting cornerbacks, was banged up. You can have those problems and suddenly give up 6 touchdown passes. I don't think that you should have one injury should cause that sort of a domino effect for that secondary, because they got a lot more talent than they do, but that's a typical Tomlin team that you've got talent and you don't play to your talent level. But the thing is, the Chiefs are a team that you normally in the past see a Tomlin team play up to that talent level. Now that Steelers aren't playing up to their talent level when the competition says they should, I think it could be a long season in Pittsburgh.
All right, KC Joyner's with us going around the league here. Indianapolis goes on the road, beats Washington, who looked good last week on the road. They come home, and what happened there?
It's Colts. Their offensive line's blocking better. You would think they've been atrocious coming into the season, but they allowed only 24.7% pass pressure rate. But Luck yesterday only threw 5.3 air yards per attempt. He's thrown a bunch of dink and dunk passes, but it's working. They're getting enough out of the running game. They're getting enough out of Luck. It's the sort of formula that Indianapolis knew would work. You get Luck back there, and he allows you to do things to win games in ways you can't if you don't have him back there. So that's an Andrew Luck win.
Of course, we will preview Eagles and Colts, that next opponent for Philadelphia on Friday's show with KC Joyner. How about Arizona? They look like you mentioned that Buffalo's the worst team in the league. Arizona got shut out. Now, I know they're playing the Rams, who might be the best team in the league, but is it time for a QB change already in Arizona?
It might be, but I did put the Rams as the top team in the league and didn't even have any hesitation to do it the way they're playing all across. I mean, look, they lose Zerline, their kicker, and they're still hitting field goals and extra points with their punter. They're that well coached. They've got so much talent. They've got the deepest receiving core in the league probably. They've got the best running back. That win says more about where the Rams are than where the Cardinals are. But if you don't see Bradford do better next week, 3.3 yards per attempt yesterday, you got to do better than that. But if you don't see better next week, I think it might be time to think of a QB change.
All right, and of course, Sam Bradford awful in that game. 90 yards passing for Sam Bradford. Detroit fought hard. We heard a lot of murmurs about them not liking the coach out there, but they fought hard on the road in San Francisco. They come up short 30-27. The Niners get a big day from Matt Breida, their running back there that you wrote about.
Yeah, Breida did very well. He's got good blocking yards per attempt. He's leading the league in that category right now, and he's more than double over Alfred Morris. That article gives more detail about that. So I think Breida should be their lead back, if nothing else, and then use Morris as a certain alternate back. I think it does a lot for the 49ers, and if Breida can do that, they won't miss McKinnon nearly as much. Remember, they win that game without Marquise Goodwin, their best vertical threat. So it says a lot for San Francisco, how well they're coached in the Lions. I like the effort level all the way through the fourth quarter because, again, you question after week one if this team was going to, I don't want to say throw in on their coach, but if they were going to be playing hard all four quarters in any game this year, and they sure did yesterday. So even though they lost, it's a good sign for the Lions.
My fantasy team will like to see Matt Breida get a bigger role for them. All right, Oakland fought hard as well. They're on the road in Denver, not an easy place to play, but the Broncos knock off the Raiders 20-19 late in that game. Denver comes back and gets a win. We saw, obviously, Carr have a much better game. Cooper had a big game, but Denver gets the victory.
Denver's run blocking has been really good this year. They've had a 44% or higher good blocking rate in both of their first two games. They had 50% rate in week one. They've got a 1-2 puncher of Freeman and Lindsey. That's a really good rushing core. They still have the good receivers, and Keenum is capable of playing, I think, better than he did yesterday. He can do what he did in in Minnesota last year, and I think that offense could be really good. And the defense, they're not quite as powerful as they were, but they still can get a pass rush, and they still get some good coverage people. I think Denver could be a sleeper.
All right, let's go to Jacksonville. They got to be looked at as the real deal. 31-20, they beat the Patriots. Bortles may be the best game he's ever played, 377 yards, and they did it without Fournette.
Now, Bortles, last year at the beginning of the season, Doug Marrone said, he kind of half-joked, I think it was only half-joking. He said, I would just assume Blake Bortles not have to throw one pass this year, which says a lot about the way that Marrone sees a football game, how he wants to be run heavy, but he also didn't trust his quarterback. Now he's gotten to the point that he trusts his quarterback. That ESPN Plus article I mentioned talks about how much pass pressure Blake Bortles faced yesterday, how well he did against that pressure, and why that bodes well for his future, both in standard NFL talk and also in fantasy league. So if they can lean on Bortles to throw the ball more often, and they could still that running game. Remember, when the game yesterday, like you said, without Fournette, you start putting all that combination together. That's a team that I think the AFC Championship might go through Jacksonville.
We'll get to the Patriots trade in a minute. I want to get your thoughts on the Sunday nighter last night. Eli and the Giants, they just can't move the ball against a Dak Prescott team that they don't move the ball all that much either. Take away the big play, big pass he had early in that game. Dak didn't do much either. 2013 Dallas wins, but this game was ugly for these NFC East former powers.
It was for Dallas. I have to be impressed by the defense. That defense is a couple of years ago when they played very well. It was the run blocking is putting them in favorable situations, so that's why they're doing that well. I think their defense is just doing well, period. I think they've got more talent, and they're going to be getting more talent coming back. So they're a team that has run game and defense, but they have no passing game to speak of. So it'll be it'll be a formula team. They win with a certain formula and can't win if they don't win that formula. I look at the Giants and go, I don't know what formula they have to win. Barkley's not nearly as impactful as they thought, and again, They passed up on Sam Darnold for Bar. I don't get it. Why would you try and be a running back centric team in 2018? 1972, I get it. In 2018, I don't get it.
I think a lot of people, a lot of objective people anyway, agree with you there that taking a running back at that high, I mean, Barkley's helping them out, but they still can't move the ball, especially behind that offensive line. They just don't have a great offensive line, which kind of hurts their passing game and their running game. But we'll see what's next for Eli and the Giants as they struggle again offensively, scoring just 13 points. Get the game tonight, Seattle-Chicago. Your thoughts on that? Seattle 0-2 could be 0-2 already if they lose this game tonight.
I think they are going to lose this game tonight. Chicago's got a pass rush that can really test that Seattle offensive line. And Trubisky in week one, sure, the Packers came back and the Bears didn't finish that game, but Trubisky was starting to look early on like the quarterback that the Bears thought he was going to be. He's not going to get to a top 15 status at quarterback as fast as Darnold, I don't think, but he's getting back up to that level. He's starting to move to where you can talk about him being a quality starting quarterback, and I think Seattle's defense has some weaknesses that he's going to be able to exploit. Plus, they've got a really good 1-2 rushing attack. I think Chicago wins this game by touchdown.
Patriots get Josh Gordon today. Good move, bad move?
It's the Patriots. They know that their locker room is so strong. They've got such strong leadership in coaching and with Brady and the rest of the players on that team that they know if Gordon comes in there and it doesn't work out, I'm sure they're going to get him for the right price. If it doesn't work out, then it didn't work out. It's worth a try for them because they don't have a vertical game. Letting Cooks go, they didn't have a good vertical game for Plan B vertical game, and if they don't get a vertical game this year, again, they'll figure a way to win, but that's going to come back and haunt them in the playoffs.
Should Philly have been interested in Gordon?
If they thought their locker room could handle the situation, yes. But again, it also depends on Wallace. If Wallace, I haven't heard of what Wallace's injury, if it's going to be long term. But if it's not a long term injury and he's going to be back, then that would be you'd be replicating the vertical threats. I don't know that you need it.
All right, Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN around the league with KC Joyner on Friday. We will preview the Week 3 action and the Eagles against the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz returns. We'll have it for you at this time on the Friday show. Thanks, pal.
Appreciate it.